simultaneously. The bodily powers are under the same government, for the heart beats, digestion proceeds, and all the other functions of the physical economy are carried on by the power lying altogether back of will. There is also another law, which from voluntary at length comes to manifest itself altogether involuntarily. I refer to the law of habit. Now, that this law governs both soul and body is proved by simple reference to the swearing man, who also drinks liquor, chews tobacco, falls asleep at a given hour, and wakes up at another. Whosoever hums a tune often will at length be haunted by it, and cannot rid himself of the tormenting tune fiend by even the most strenuous resolve and effort to do so. It, like a fever, must and will run its course. We also habituate ourselves to certain forms of expression and ideal associations. Thus much by the way of preface. Now, it was the involuntary obedience of my soul to the habit law that caused it to array itself into the semblance of the old and well-remembered dress. The law of association of ideas gave the blue cast, the wrinkles, and the emaciation which so surprised me. Presently, however, I passed under the operation of a higher laws of nature, and more interior ones of my own immortal soul. One of the first, and most important of these last, is the law of vastation, whereby the soul throws off the old loves, preparatory to entering upon new ones. Its first involuntary act, in the second, as in the first case, was to clothe itself, but no longer subject to the old law of association, and coming under a new one, it rejected the things of memory and assumed the garb corresponding to its newborn loves, all in the conformity of the law within itself, whose external manifestations invariably in the soul world represent its inward states, moral, religious, and intellectual. In the light of the explanation, therefore, no one need marvel at the radical changes in my personal appearance. We shall throw much light on the general subject when we treat of the mysteries of being. The present undertaking being merely prefatory, as a matter of course, confines us to the mere superficialities of the realm whose vastness exceeds the human conception. In reference to the twinkle of my hands and their sudden disappearance, enough has been said, yet for the information of who chooses to profit by it, I will merely add here that a time only affects man in his outward relations. It cannot, of course, bring wrinkles on his features, for souls do not grow old by years, albeit they do grow old by experiences, without a reference to duration, but only as to the depth and intensity. A single week of mental agony will ripen a soul far more than 50 centuries of clock beats passed free from the sorrows of aforesaid. Let it not be forgotten that there are two distinct and dissimilar worlds beyond the grave, nor that I had rapidly crossed from the first to the second stage of my transmundane existence. One of these is the mere external worlds of spirits, wherein a life analogous to that of earth is for a period led by the inhabitants thereof. The other is concerning the mysteries whereof I am now treating. Millions of beings there are who, although disrobed of fleshly garments, are yet pilgrims in the search of the soul world. The latter is divine and interior, the former natural and merely spiritual. A man on earth may gaze on the surface of a picture, or mechanically read a book, and yet find nothing therein, whereas either of these may lead another person not only to their own beauty depths and into the soul of the painter or the author, but they may serve as clues which his soul may seize on the follow into realms never even imagined to exist by the poet-painter or the painter-poet. So also the mere mortuary fact by no means serves as a free ticket or pass into the grand temple, at the mere vestibule of which grim death lands those who take the passage to the phantom shallop, whereof himself is pilot and steersman. The mere post-mortem existence does not necessarily entitle one to all the privileges of the temple, nor make one resident of, or even spectator of, the worlds of soul. True, there will occur a change in all, whereby they can pass the mystic ferry, but this change must be worked out from within, and in no wise depend on the outside influences. It must be volitional, not mechanical. The ferriage must be paid in well-wishing and better doing. The life beyond is a real one, compared to that of earth is a mere shadow, And the forms of government is synonymous one, equal rights, equal laws, impartial justice, administered, not by external agents of outward power, but by the very constitutional delegates from the secret soul itself. For no justice is very just as that which each soul, by virtue of its own nature, administers to itself, and through which its lower becomes subordinated to its higher noble faculties, qualities, and powers. And this is the law that keeps many a one from entering the sacred penetralia until properly disciplined and prepared for the change. I wondered at first why these truths were not more generally known and appreciated by the people, who, because they have an intellectual perception of the fact of immortality, call themselves spiritualists. But as the veil was slowly drawn away, and I saw that much had to me appeared real, proved now to be but seeming, there was no more marveling. There was, still is, and for a long time will be, 4 sorts of spiritualism in the world. First, a mere bodily sensitiveness, nervous acuteness, and susceptibility to magnetic emanations and impressions, out of which arise a great deal of stagnant filth and social corruption, so prevalent the debaucheries and license and great evils which pain so greatly the hearts of true men and women. Second, a spiritualism of the brain alone, a cerebral quickening, a hothouse ripening of faculty, which gives rise to much talking, and sometimes leads to the discovery of many of the elements of the great Principia under the sympathiatad, and the prophecies of good times that is yet to be. Third, compact spiritualism, or that wherein and whereby a certain class of sensitives, by the male or female, become the dupes of their own folly, and the victims of the disembodied maniacs, lunatics, and self-deluded denizens of the middle state, spirits who wander on the outskirts of 3 worlds without a permanent resting place